Chaining GUI components. Most GUI components have a view output connector. This allows other GUI components to be linked to them so chains of graphical elements can be created. The example below shows how this is done. The effect on the link order is as follows. The link to the red rectangle is taken first, followed by any links from its output connector. Then it's back to the next link from the GUI, etc. In this example, the red rectangle would be drawn under the blue one, which would then be under the orange one. Mouse handling. Mouse area. In order to receive mouse messages in a part of your front panel, you must first define the mouse area. This is done using the mouse area component. The example below shows how the right half of the module can be made to receive mouse messages. This is indicated by a change in cursor as the mouse pointer passes over the mouse area. Mouse clicks. To trap mouse clicks on a mouse area, you'll need a mouse L button down component. Link the mouse output connector on the mouse area component to the input on the mouse L button down component. Whenever you click in the mouse area, a trigger will be sent to the trigger output on the mouse L button down. The coordinates of the click point, in grid squares, will be available from the two float outputs. Mouse dragging. You can track the mouse position while the left mouse button is held down. This allows you to implement drag operations. The component you need to do this is the mouse drag component. This takes mouse messages at its input and sends the coordinates to its two float outputs as you drag. The example below shows how the mouse drag component can be used to change the size of the rectangle. We've created our own rectangle module to handle the drawing. This makes the schematic a bit neater. You can download the schematic for this here. Mouse moves. You can also track the mouse as it moves over a mouse area. This is done using the mouse move component. Before you can use this, you need to enable mouse move messages on the appropriate MGUI component. Mouse move messages are disabled by default to reduce unnecessary performance overheads. Try replacing the mouse drag component in the previous example with the mouse move component, and you'll see how this works. Drag accumulate. The mouse drag component is a bit too low level for some tasks. If you want to create a slider or anything with moving parts that can be dragged around, then it's much easier to use a drag accumulate component. Drag accumulate components manage much of the legwork of drag operations for you. There are three varieties: X, Y, and XY. The Y drag accumulate manages a parameter that varies over a particular range. When you drag the mouse, the offset from the point where you clicked is maintained by the component. As you continue dragging, the parameter is updated according to the Y position of the mouse and a scale value that you can specify. If you have a look deep inside the bitmap knob module in the toolbox, you'll see how the Y drag accumulate component is used. Move through the following modules: bitmap knob, knob, interaction, knob, control, moving part, knob, control. Inside the knob control module, and you'll see the Y drag accumulate in the middle. The picture below explains what's going on. Redrawing. Redraw control. If you change a property of the drawing element during a mouse operation like dragging, you'll often want the changes to be reflected immediately in the module front panel. To allow for maximum flexibility, SynthMaker allows you to control when parts of the front panel are redrawn. In the rectangle dragging example, we use the simplest kind of redraw. We just forced the whole panel to refresh. This was done using the redraw component. If you look inside the rectangle module, you'll see the redraw component. When the component receives a trigger, it sends a message back up through the view links to the first GUI it finds. When the GUI receives the message, it redraws everything on its front panel. Precision redraws. Redrawing the whole panel each time can be slow when the area is large. Try resizing the module in the example above so that it is very big. You will notice that dragging becomes sluggish. Often only a small area of the panel is changing at any one time, so it's much more efficient To redraw only the bit that has changed. For this purpose we have the redraw area component. This works in exactly the same way as the redraw component, except that it only redraws the area that you supply to it as its area input. We've modified the drag rectangle example, so it uses the redraw area component. Unfortunately, it's not just a simple case of linking the rectangle area to the redraw area component. This is because the area before the last mouse move may need to be redrawn too. What we need is the combined area of the old and the new rectangles. For this example, we've created a module that handles the storage of the old area and its combination with the new area. This uses an area sample and hold to keep the old area for when it's needed. Here's a link to the modified schematic.